Welcome back to the Hood Needs Fantasy Football Podcast. This is episode 29, week 6, Studs and Duds. I got my boys, MFB and BBTB.
Doing his
and I'm your
thing, bench
host,
550.
and I'm your host, Keem. We're gonna get into the week 6 Studs and Duds. We had a good number of duds, but some studs here and there. So let's go ahead and jump into the QBs. At the top, Caleb Williams, 28.64 fantasy points, depending on your format. He goes into the bye week. Do you guys just think it was the matchup? They played Jacksonville this week. It's been the best matchup for QBs.
I'm surprised he finished number 1 of the week. But not surprised he did well versus Jacksonville. I think we called it out in our preview episode, if you guys listened, that you play all QBs, play all receivers, kind of, against Jacksonville, right? Yep. We know with Chicago, they got a lot of weapons. You're kind of going to play the roulette table on which receiver is really going to be hitting for a week with Chicago. Similar to the Packers situation. But yeah, QBs can throw on Jags easy. Start all your QBs against Jacksonville to throw on.
Yep. No. And start all your players against Jacksonville, kind of.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. Next, we have Baker Mayfield, who's been killing it this year. He's in the running for MVP, low key. 25.9 fantasy points.
We said it once. We'll say it again. Only one finish, I think, outside the top 6. With the which was against the Broncos.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
He's still finishing. Other than that week, top 6 every week, solidified.
Bro, they dropped 51 points on my Saints, man. 51, brother. The over under was 48.5. Like,
yeah, that
was frustrating, man. But dude, with Baker Mayfield, man, he is solidified. If you could try to trade for him, go trade for him. He's gonna be a top performer as long as he stays healthy. Has the guys for it. Baker's solid.
I mean, yeah, they played Baltimore, which is a good matchup, and then Atlanta and Kansas City, SF, and then the bye. I don't know when he might. I don't think he does bad in any of these games. Honestly, I see him doing solid all of them. So there may not be a time to buy low on him. I think if you can get him and you need a QB, he's been consistent, so he's good.
No.
Next, we have Jordan Love, 25.62 fantasy points. Love has also been, since he got back from injury, and even before he got injured, he was doing great.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yo, what you call it? He looks healthy, man. He looks healthy.
Yeah, I think he definitely got good time to heal up. One thing I'll say on this game is the Cardinals had like 4 injuries either during or after the game to their defense. And their defense was already kind of lacking in talent, right? So they are extremely withered down. Jordan Love definitely capitalized on that. Also, I mean, we'll probably harp on it again when we do the Week 7 preview, but be a lookout for players playing against Cardinals D, baby.
Yeah. Oh man, the Cardinals are poverty franchise. They just
not as bad as the Saints.
They had a lot of fumbles in that game. Anyways. The next 3 we got Jared Goff, 25.1. They destroyed the Cowboys. Brock Purdy, 24.1 against Seahawks. That was Thursday Night Football. Justin Fields, 23.7. He's been solid. Any notes on any of these guys?
Nah, I think, man, I got to give props to Justin Fields, bro. We had him in our week 5 waiver wire pickups episode. So if you would listen to us and picked him up, and you're starting him, you're probably pretty happy because that boy's doing solid with the Steelers right now, which nobody really expected, right? I think pre-draft, we were expecting Russell Wilson to be the guy, but Justin Fields taking the wheel, bro, and he's doing good.
Yeah.
And honestly, with the... Oh, sorry. Go for it.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, there's also a stat, I think we brought it up before, that Mike Tomlin hasn't had a negative season. And so I think Justin Fields is still going to get him that positive season. So I think Justin Fields fantasy-wise is just the guy.
Yeah, I mean, they play the Jets next week. I was going to say Sunday Night Football. So that'll be interesting to see if he can stay. I mean, yeah, that might be another test for him. Maybe sit him next week. That's it for the QB studs. We're going to jump into the wide receivers now. At the top, Chris Godwin, who's been just great all season. I mean, he hasn't really had a terrible game. I think he had one where he didn't perform as much as you'd have expected him. A couple games against Philly and Atlanta, but other than that, he's been terrific.
Yeah, what'd you call it? Before the season started, I don't know if you guys remember, but I called Chris Godwin coming back from that injury, finally looking healthy with those last couple games last year, and now he's obviously killing it. I had him over Mike Evans finishing the year too, and he looks clear. He looks like the go-to guy. Obviously, Mike Evans is still solid, don't get me wrong, but Chris Godwin looks elite right now.
Yep. He's doing, I mean, yeah, he's doing his thing, and it's Baker Mayfield's the kind of orchestrating it all. So that team is kind of firing on all cylinders. We got more studs actually from that team coming up later. But next on the list we have Monday Night Football. Garrett Wilson. Him and Aaron Rodgers. I didn't know. I feel like I mentioned it when we said Robert Saleh got fired, that they would they would do well. They did lose the game, but I mean, Aaron Rodgers looked good. Garrett Wilson looked good. 10 targets, 8 receptions. He had 20.7 fantasy points. Yeah, in half PPR.
Yeah, they look solid. I will say, I kind of just have to say it. They could have done that with Robert Saleh there. Robert Saleh not being there didn't change much. I'm just gonna say that, bro.
No, that's true. Not saying. Yeah. I'm not saying that when they getting rid of Robert Saleh made them better. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
I know.
Teams tend to typically bounce back. We talked about it last week when we talked about the Jets and how teams usually bounce back the week after they fire their head coach mid-season, but generally they never make playoffs. I think once a team made playoffs is the stat that I'm aware of. So, I mean, he did his thing. So he did pretty good. But next on the list, we got A.J. Brown, 20.6 fantasy points. He's back. Thank God.
He's back, man.
Owner's been waiting for 4 weeks, I think, for this. So.
Man, yeah. 3 weeks out with the hamstring, 1 week bye. At least his bye week's over, so you got him for the rest of the season. If you didn't trade for him, you should have. I watched the touchdown, and he made a nice catch, man. Just like covered. He's the ball fell right in his hand. He caught it and secured it, and then fell and tumbled and still held onto it. It's just like
the thing is with that catch, he literally ran very fast and then literally stopped very slow just to put the ball perfectly in and got it.
Bro, he's a beast, man. He's going to keep doing it. Jalen Hurts probably missed him. I mean, it helps Jalen Hurts' productivity too.
Yeah.
They played Cleveland D, which was a tough defense, but still got it done. I should have mentioned Lazard also 20.4 fantasy points. Him and Aaron Rodgers got a connection. He's
11. Hit or miss. How many fantasy points is it?
20.4.
Like 12 of those 12. Points, actually, right? Came from one wild play.
Bomb.
But I miss watching that about Aaron Rodgers, bro. The Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary, 8 dudes in the end zone.
And it got him the production. Alan Lazard's been kind of hit or miss this year. He's hot or he's cold. But I mean, he's been doing solid. He's getting the targets. Last 3 games, he had 8 targets, 9 targets, 7 targets. And he had a touchdown 2 of those games. So, I mean, Lazard's a solid, flex piece. If you have him, if he's on waivers, make sure you pick him up.
Definitely more reliable than Mike Willie, but,
easily.
Kind of a non-factor.
Yeah.
Right. Couple more. Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, those guys. I mean, you expect it from Deebo. And then Jaden Daniels has been doing well. He's been, MFB, you mentioned him getting more accurate. He's been proving to do that,
Yeah. What you call it? Honestly, I was very surprised with that performance because Baltimore, they do have a good secondary. I know Bengals killed them last week, but I thought it was just there's always a rivalry between Baltimore and Bengals, and they're in the same division, so it's like I just knew that was going to be a shootout. But I didn't think Terry McLaurin would pop off like this and finish top 5. So that's very surprising. So I don't know, going through if I'm a Terry McLaurin owner, I'm very happy for the rest of the season because he could perform on good defenses and obviously the mid-tier defenses.
I mean, just to talk about Terry McLaurin, he started off season very slow. First 2 games, terrible, right? 4 targets, 8 targets, only finished with 17 yards and 22 yards in those games. And then since then, he had a 100-yard game and a touchdown, 50-yard game and a touchdown, 112 yards against Cleveland, and then 53 yards, 2 touchdowns against Baltimore. So if he was going later in drafts, he might be like a good steal where he was going in drafts.
Yeah, like if you drafted Terry McLaurin and Godwin, like with your late picks, man, what a steal.
For your receivers.
Yeah.
That's it for receivers. Any notes on any of these guys?
No.
All right. Jumping into RBs at the top, Sean Tucker from the Bucks ran all over the Saints. What happened?
Bro, we looked lost out there as a defense, man. We looked, brother, the backup of the backup running back was the number 1 fantasy.
The starter was out, so yeah. But
but you're not expecting the RB3 to pop off with 32.7 and be higher than a lot of guys in the league that were drafted in the first and second round. So I don't know. I was a little annoyed.
It's one game, right? But they ran all over him.
14. Man, Sean Tucker's a guy who I remember last year I was kind of targeting, but I was definitely like a year too early, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
We'll definitely talk more Sean Tucker in our waiver wire episode.
Yeah.
But the coach was mentioning like they might have a 3-headed monster backfield now once Rachaad White's healthy. So just something to keep an eye out for. Probably the worst thing you want to hear as a fantasy owner of any of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But I think Bucky took most of like the rushing and maybe the routes ran. I'd have to double check. But Sean Tucker like blew up for some plays for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he had the same number of rush attempts. They both had 14, but Sean Tucker had 136 yards and a touchdown, whereas Bucky Irving had 81 yards and a touchdown. So I guess he had just more like big chunk plays. Next we got Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry. I'm going to just loop them both in. Both good running backs.
Dogs,
Mixon's back.
Mixon was back.
Yeah. Dude.
Second crazy game.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man. I mean, he got
like
injured.
These star players, if you held on to them and you waited for them to come back, or if you're a guy who traded for them and you waited, then paid out finally. So
yeah,
Henry is just
Henry
kind of animal.
Henry's Henry
needs to be tested for steroids.
Yeah, something,
bro. Something. He's on pace. Guess what his pace for touchdowns is, bro?
Touchdowns? 20.
Touchdowns on the season. His pace. Okay,
20.
20. We both said 20.
25, bro.
Yeah,
he's on pace 25, bro.
That is crazy,
bro. They're running the life out of that ball, man. They're running a lot. So they still haven't played Pittsburgh yet, and they played him twice. But I don't see them being a problem for him.
I knew he was going to be good, but I don't know.
Hey, he beat the 30-year-old allegations when with the running backs being old. He beat that.
He looks like a stud for sure.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, just anyone that has Derrick Henry, just make sure you have Justice Hill on your bench. Just stash him just in case something happens to him. But yeah, those two guys both great. Joe Mixon had 26.2, Derrick Henry 25.2, and then we had Bijan finally had his breakout game, 24 fantasy points. Are you guys expecting to see more, or is it because they played against Carolina?
I wouldn't say more, just because, like, honestly, I know he dropped 24 fantasy points, but I think Tyler Algier dropped like 20 fantasy points right next to him. And so that kind of annoyed me. You know what I'm saying? Like, like if you gave like 12 of those points to just Bijan obviously explodes even more. So it's like, why? Like, I don't know.
I think a lot of that was garbage time because they were kind of spanking Carolina, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
so also this statistic might have been inflated because of garbage time, but Bijan didn't hit 50% running back rush share that game. Actually, for the second time in 3 weeks, right? Now, part of this is definitely an Algier factor. But the positive to that is Bijan had like over 60% route participation. which is what you really want to see, right? So that's like the plus with Bijan. I'd be pretty confident if I had Bijan right now. I wouldn't be too worried, but Algier is kind of definitely still in the picture.
Yeah, they play Seattle next week, who gave up a lot of points on the floor, especially to who do they play? That Garendo, yeah, from the on the Niners. So teams have been able to run on Seattle, so he plays them next week. Next we got David Montgomery, 20.5 fantasy points, took 2 touchdowns and ran him in and took him from Gibbs. Gibbs didn't get. I don't think Gibbs had a touchdown that game. So
no, he didn't.
Gibbs did not.
And that was a blowout, man. 47-9. The Detroit Lions versus. What do you do?
We screwed over a lot of fantasy people.
That's
kind of including me because they rested all the starters so early.
Yeah.
No, I mean, even for me, I had Gibbs, and I was like, "Yo, put him in, get him a garbage time touchdown." Yeah. But no, the game was already way out of hand in the fourth quarter. They got smashed. Or the Cowboys got smashed.
But
which you want to say something?
I did, but
go ahead.
Which Montgomery, man, he's just getting the goal line touches, dude. He's just the bigger back. Like Gibbs is a lot quicker and a little bit more elusive, but Montgomery just runs a lot harder and could take more of a hit. So I think a lot of us drafted him in like round 5 or 6. What a draft pick if you have him on your team.
Yeah, like round 4 or 5. People keep thinking that
round 4, maybe late 3.
Yeah,
but I mean, not surprising. They go drive by drive. They use both backs, and they use them super well. If I'm a Gibbs owner, I'm not worried. But if I'm a Monty owner, I'm obviously hella happy because you got a higher payout.
Yeah.
So. Definitely. Yeah. Their fantasy points each week has been pretty similar. Like, and one has not really outshined the other. Besides this week, he had the 2 touchdowns, Montgomery. But both good running backs on a good offense. Clearly, they just absolutely wrecked Dallas, which may have had to do with their corners being out, and their defense was kind of I think BBTB was talking about 3rd string defenders and practice squad.
They're beat up on the defensive side. It's bad.
That makes sense. Okay. Still, a thrashing, and that's a good offense. So let's jump into tight ends. Cole Kmet at the top, 21.5 fantasy points. I don't think you'll ever see like the same tight end names up here. It's always some random tight end every week that does the best. It's never like the ones you expected.
100%. That's how it is.
And that's just, it's literally how it is. But Cole Kmet, Caleb Williams, they connected. I think he had 2 touchdowns that game. So it did well. And then 5 targets. But 21.5 fantasy points. You're not mad at that. George Kittle, 20.3 fantasy points. He did well. He also had, I think, a pair of touchdowns in that game against Seattle. So that's the touchdowns. The tight ends that are getting the touchdowns are obviously getting a lot more points, and that's what you want from your tight end. Mark Andrews finally on the stud list against Washington. Only 4 targets, 3 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown. He had 14.1 fantasy points. What do you do?
All Mark Andrews on the dud list. I got tired of it. Look, let me get on the stud list.
Bro,
yeah.
Coach Harbaugh moved that homie from left tackle back to tight end, bro, and finally found his freaking spark. And so Mark Andrews looked really, really good. I don't know, and I don't know if you guys watched the press interview, like after the game, and literally Lamar Jackson was talking about, I've been missing Mark Andrews. I said I was going to get him a tutty. I didn't get him one a couple weeks ago or last game, and I'm going to feed Mark Andrews a lot more. And that's pretty much what he did. So I think Mark Andrews on the come up.
Okay. Yeah. So if you traded for him or you got him on your team, I don't want to spend too much time on Mark Andrews, but we'll talk about him later. He's got a couple other matchups. He's got Tampa Bay next week, which should be a shootout, and then Cleveland the following week, which should not be a shootout. Cleveland sucks. So in that case, if they're playing, I said it before, if it's a shootout, they seem to involve him more. When it was a shootout against Cincinnati, they involved him. He got 5 targets that game. So games where there's more throwing involved, he will likely see targets versus just blocking for Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So yeah, just something to think about in respect to Mark Andrews. Next on the list, Evan Ingram and Trey McBride. Trey McBride at 13.6, Evan Ingram 13.2. He's back. I think caught a touchdown that game. If I'm not mistaken, let me double check. He did not. He only had 10 catches for 102 yards. Evan Ingram, no touchdown.
Oh yeah, Evan Ingram was the go-to target easily during that game.
Yeah, he's been injured.
I will say on the point of Trey McBride, he had week 6. I think he had 25% target share, which was his lowest for the season, minus the game he got injured and left. But that's like crazy to think about, bro. That's the lowest target share he's had.
Yeah.
25%.
This week, week 6?
This week. Yeah. So like Trey McBride is like, you're sitting comfy, bro, if you have him.
Yeah.
You know?
And also Marvin Harrison's hurt. So like
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about him more later, but yeah, he left the game. So more targets should go his way, especially if Marvin Harrison doesn't come back next week. That's it for the studs list. Do you guys want anything else you guys want to say about the tight ends, or do we miss anything? Anyone we miss?
Nah.
All right.
Chilling.
Good. All right. Let's jump into the duds. Top of the list, Dak Prescott, 3.22 fantasy points. How do you guys feel about Dak?
Probably dud of the season award so far.
Yeah.
Actually.
But that was a BTA. Do you guys know what BTA means?
No, tell us, please.
BTA means belt to ass. Because that homie was getting whatcha. Getting his shit spanked, bruh. That was disgusting, bro.
2 interceptions. Did he even fumble that game?
Bro, he just looked horrible.
He didn't have points in that game. I know he didn't have any of them.
He didn't do nothing, bro.
No, he did not have a fumble, but he had 2 interceptions, 178 yards. Nothing. Literally nothing. That was, I mean, you could maybe say it's just a good Detroit defense who lost, what's his name?
Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, man, horrible injury. They lost him.
That was unlucky.
But just I don't know if you chalk it up to just a bad offense or a good defense or a combination of the two. They get the bye week, so he gets time to, I don't know, practice not sucking.
Bruh, do something, bruh.
A performance like that, man.
It was atrocious.
Yeah, terrible. Next, we have on the list, Daniel Jones is in here. He had no Malik Neighbors. He had 11.8 fantasy points. Without Neighbors on the team, I don't expect to start.
He did solid last week without Neighbors, though.
That's true, but last week they played. I mean, it was Seattle. I don't know.
They played Seattle, and Seattle's good off the zone defense, and so I feel like that's why a lot of Wan'Dale Robinson and Slayton's points came from just eating up the zone defense. So
right, they play Philadelphia next week. It's a divisional matchup, so they should be able to get more points out of him. Hopefully, you're not depending on Daniel Jones to win your weeks. Kyler Murray next on the list, 11.96 fantasy points. Just he had a fumble, and everyone was fumbling.
Is this no? But he was on the duds list before. I don't know if it was last week or not.
It wasn't. No, last week he bounced back.
It wasn't.
He had
last
a rush
week.
touchdown. It was against Washington. Just the Cardinals. Look, they lost Marvin Harrison this game to a concussion. You can say that hadn't obviously has an effect on he loses a target like that, but the Cardinals just don't. I'm just gonna say it. They just don't look good, man. They haven't looked good. I complained about them. I mean, they beat SF last week, right? But I complain about them whenever they don't do good. But anyways, are you guys worried about Kyler Murray? They're playing the Chargers next week, which is a very good defense. Then they play Miami. Tua might be back. Chicago, and then the Jets. How do you guys feel about Murray? Do you get rid of him?
If you want me to be honest,
Call of Duty comes out, and Call of Duty comes out.
Just about to say
he's
that
he's going to be on the game.
Call of Duty out next week, bro. Kyler Murray, he's I don't know, man. He's just too inconsistent, man. Because I think a lot of people got him round 4, round 5 pick, or no, I think round 5 pick. And so that's not what you want out of your round 5 quarterback. So I don't know,
He
man.
he had a lot of hype going into him. He's
Yep.
very hot and cold. I think that's what we're gonna keep seeing here.
Yeah. It's got to get
Green Bay
lucky.
D is pretty good, right? Like they're not like
Yeah.
some lowly D. Chargers D is also pretty good. So I don't know how well he's
Chargers
gonna do next week.
Yeah, I mean, Chargers, Miami's interesting. I don't know if the number might be skewed there because they just don't have a quarterback, so no one's putting up points with the quarterback against them. There's not a lot of points for quarterbacks against Miami, but Chicago and the Jets and the Chargers are all really good defenses.
Honestly, if I'm a Kyler Murray owner, I might think about streaming a quarterback next week just because of that Chargers matchup.
Yeah.
So,
And Kimo was mentioning
tough.
the teams, and it's something I mentioned before in previous episode. The schedule gets so hard for Cardinals, bro.
oh yeah,
The schedule gets so hard.
Yeah, and they have the bye week, then Seattle, Minnesota. Minnesota's a tough defense. They play Seattle again. But yeah, anyways, that's a long ways away. But still, the next 4 weeks are bad in the bye week. So maybe get rid of him while you can. Harder to get rid of him after that bad week.
If you can.
You can. Yeah, maybe you don't. Geno Smith, 12.48 fantasy points. Kirk Cousins, 12.5 fantasy points. I think I chalk Kirk Cousins up to they just smacked the Panthers.
Yeah, me too.
And then Geno, I don't know, just played against the good Niners defense, 2 interceptions. But yeah, that's it for the quarterback duds. Do you guys have any comments on those guys? Any of those guys?
No. I would just say I wouldn't trip over Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins obviously finally came back down to earth, and he dogged the Panthers, so he'll be just fine. With Geno Smith, I don't know, man. I think the games before he had like I think 20 to 30 rushing yards like a game or something, like some crazy stat, and like the what you call it. And I feel like the OC and the head coach let him down with the play calling and stuff, dude. Like I feel like they just weren't ready to play SFD. So
yeah, on a Thursday night primetime game, they got maybe, I don't know, a little bit.
But also 2 tutties were called back for DK Metcalf, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that.
That's something I was going to mention.
Yeah.
DK got called two touchdowns called back. So it definitely would have, swayed some point differential there.
Yeah, he would have been out of the duds list for sure if he had caught or either those touchdowns counted. So that's something to think about.
So probably just don't worry about those 2.
Okay. Let's jump into the wide receivers. Number 1, top of the list, is a Saints player, Chris Olave, -1 fantasy point.
Man.
Yeah, he ended up, leaving the game because it was a concussion, right?
Bro, he literally got sandwiched. Literally a high-low.
Sandwiched.
No. All right, brother. So literally, it was literally a high-low play, and the guy coming from the top, helmet to helmet, and they don't even call a flag. No flag on that play, by the way. I was livid,
That's
man.
Tough. Yeah.
It's sad, man. Because Olave is somebody who I wanted to be like so good.
No, I mean, same.
And I was excited. Like the Saints, like, man, we talked about this on like before draft, early episode. Like, they're going to start using pre-snap motion, and they were for the first 2 weeks. And it was doing really well. And then they kind of just stopped doing it. Right? Like,
I don't know.
Like, gave up on it. They stopped doing it. They need to implement it more, but maybe it doesn't matter, bro, because they got no Derek Carr. Olave's concussed. Like, my Olave hopes and dreams have gone out the window.
Brother, my player to fade before the season started, my bonus player was Chris Olave, and kind of living up to the hype right now.
Hey, that's true. Next on the list, also another injured player, Marvin Harrison Jr., also a concussion. So, this is, I think, the second or third player this week that got concussed. It might be just these 2.
Just to let you guys know, that's a Cardinals player, by the way. Cardinals.
Yeah, it is. But he had one more point than Olave.
Surtain got concussed.
Okay.
Yes, too.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
And they play the Saints Thursday. So, I mean, we'll talk about that in the preview. But
so just really quick, I want to talk about concussions in the NFL and how it's evolved and progressed over the years. Do you guys think it's in a good place right now, or do you think they need to do more for the players? Do you think that they need to do let the players play? Like, Neighbors had a concussion not last Thursday, not the Thursday before that, but the Thursday before that, and he still got ruled out of the game this week.
I think that was a coaching decision, though.
Okay.
I think if they wanted to, he could have cleared and played, but they kind of just said nah.
No.
For whatever reason.
Okay.
I'm not really sure why.
And I don't know if you guys know, Neighbors was at the Travis Scott concert like 2 days before the game.
I saw that, yeah.
Or something like that.
The reports, people were saying, what the hell?
Yeah, what are you doing, bro? You're concussed.
he's relaxing, man. Let the guy chill.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? So it depends on can you actually clear the protocol? Like, are you actually healthy? Or does the team want to allow you to, do the protocol and be healthy? So
yeah, I mean,
it really just depends.
We're seeing a lot of concussions, and it's, players are missing weeks because of it. And I don't know if it's, they did implement like a 5-step process. You have to get cleared by an independent doctor and like all this other stuff.
What I recall is like a 10-day window or something.
Is it 10 days? Okay.
I have no clue.
Yeah. I just was thinking like, is it are they doing too much, or should they be protecting players more like this? Is this better for the league as a whole?
It's honestly tough because I feel like some of these guys are just kind of getting unlucky. Like Olave just got sandwiched and then just literally helmet to helmet. Neighbors just slammed his head on the floor really, really badly with that crazy catch. Yeah. So it's like, what do you do as the NFL, So
no, yeah. I just thought to bring it up, just see what you guys
yeah.
And next on the list, Calvin Ridley with less than a point, 0.9 fantasy points. He has been just I don't even know.
So I know I mentioned like a quick tidbit before, like, hey, maybe invest in the Titans passing attack. What I forgot to mention is Will Levis sucks. Sucks so bad that he can't even get the ball in the vicinity of any receiver, bro. And if he does, like, it's like hospital balls. Like into 4 Colts defenders, like ready to smash Ridley, bro. It was, man. It's really bad to watch, honestly.
He had the 0.9 fantasy points came on a rush attempt. He had 8 targets, 0 catches.
Yeah, 8 targets, 0 catches. Yep.
No,
I know.
And by the way, those 8 targets, the first half he only had 1, by the way, and then the second half he had 7, which is crazy. And then I don't know if you guys watched his post interview, but he was just cussing up a storm to the reporters, just literally, he's like, I need more targets, I need more this.
Finally, along the lines of get me in the game in the beginning. Like, I need something in the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was saying.
I mean, if you're a Ridley owner, you're happy with that. You want to see players that complain that, they get the ball, that tends to be how it goes.
I think Ridley's talented. He gets the volume. He had like 29% target share. It's just a matter of Will Levis coming online, bro. That's really it. And their schedule is so soft coming up.
Yeah.
Like, part of me still kind of want to invest a little bit. But it's tough. It's tough watching Will Levis do it. So
he think some crazy stuff. He's doing 360 no scopes in the season early.
If I remember, I think that was Chemo's sleeper pick too. Chemo, wasn't that your sleeper pick? Will Levis?
No comment. Hey, bro, we're waiting for him to come online. Waiting for him to come online. Just keep waiting. Keep waiting. Anyways, next on the list, DJ Moore, 4 fantasy points. Brian Thomas, 4.2. Mike Evans, 4.4. 2 of those guys you really expected. Brian Thomas, the rookie,
Mike
expected as well.
Yeah, Mike Evans got out the game early, right? So we had the clip, him versus Marshawn Lattimore. We see the stats.
Yep.
I guess technically the stats will still live up to the history.
They are.
But he got out very early in the game, so you got to.
We talked about that. We're like temporary expectations for Mike Evans just because of this rivalry that they have.
But at the same time,
we didn't get to see the rivalries because he got out from an injury or something.
Yeah, right.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. Yeah, I think it was it might have been a concussion alert maybe or something. They were scared of something. They pulled him out.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know. And maybe if
really okay. I didn't see any reports on him leaving because of an injury, but
I know he left after the first half. I'm pretty sure he didn't play second half.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
With the Brian Thomas, just tough matchup against the Bears secondary. Yep. We covered that. DJ Moore with the soft matchup versus Jacksonville, but
Surprising.
mentioned Chicago offense is going to be a roulette wheel. Who's the receiver to eat this week?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it wasn't DJ Moore. Surprise,
Cole
surprise.
Kmet.
But
Cole Kmet and
I'm not
who
too
else
worried
did
with DJ Moore. But if I'm a Moore owner, I know like, hey, he's either going to pop or he's not going to pop for me. So
hot
and
or
that's
cold,
just kind of
right?
how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. They go on the bye week this upcoming week, so they get time to recover. But they have a good schedule upcoming too for receivers. So I wouldn't be. I mean, yeah, it could go either way, right? For those players, like any one of them could pop off. But they play Washington, Arizona, New England might be tough, and Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. So they have decent matchups for their receivers.
I was going to say Mike Evans suffered an early injury in the early second quarter. So yeah, gotcha.
It was an injury. Okay, all right. Now we know. Next, maybe that's why Chris Godwin went, popped off so much because they had, Mike Evans left the game, so he had to kind of step in. That's it for the wide receivers. For the duds, onto the running backs at the very top. ETN, who also got injured again. What was it? Hamstring this time, or what was it? This time?
So he's week to week now with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, every week something happens. Shoulder, ankle, hamstring. So now considered doubtful for the matchup this upcoming week. What do you do with ETN if you're an
owner?
Pray.
Yeah.
Try to get Bixby, I guess.
Yeah.
Honestly, as ETN owner, I mean, you probably should have sold him like a few weeks ago. Like I don't know, like he got hurt like 2-3 times and like in a row. So if you sold him a few weeks ago, great. But if you didn't sell him, good luck.
You kind of stuck with him at this point, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next on the list, Tank Bigsby. Hey, he didn't do anything without ETN there. Look at him. 2.4 fantasy points.
I think we had mentioned this before. I mean, like Tank Bigsby has one target for the season.
Last week.
6 weeks, one target, bro. Yeah. It's just not what you want to see. Sure, he's going to take over the backfield, but Jacksonville backfield is like not amazing. Like I'm not hyped about, I have the top running back in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Not really, at least, right? It's just their offense isn't moving as good as we thought, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Which cut? They also played D'Ernest Johnson, I think, more than Tank Bigsby.
D'Ernest Johnson was pass catching, yes, out the backfield.
Yeah. So
he's the pass catching back there. Okay.
I guess so.
Yeah, interesting. Next on the list, Trey Sermon, 2.9 fantasy points. He did nothing without Jonathan Taylor there.
Yeah,
I think the other running back looked better. What's his name?
Tyler Goodson.
Yeah.
Tyler Goodson did better. He caught more passes, I think also ran more routes. But I think Taylor should be back. But definitely monitor it because Taylor health issues. Just be careful.
Yeah. I forgot to mention Jerome Ford, who left the game with an injury week to week with a hamstring. Nick Chubb's coming back next week. They already announced it. So, yeah, if you have Jerome Ford, you should have got rid of him a while ago. Especially with what's his name coming back, Nick Chubb. So that's Jerome Ford, Javonte, dude, 3.1 fantasy points. Woohoo! Oh my god, man. he had a fumble. He still was. I mean, he didn't get completely taken out of the game after that fumble. The Chargers defense is a good defense overall, but I don't. I mean, what do you do with Javonte? Because he had a couple of decent weeks against the Jets. He had 77 yards. Against Vegas, he had 61 rushing yards and 50 yards through the air. So he was kind of picking it up. But I mean, he plays the Saints, then he plays Carolina, and then Baltimore, Kansas City, Atlanta, and they're already rotating backs, kind of. So I mean, do you try and get rid of him, or what? Or what do you do?
Honestly, I'd probably just keep him because he's at like his lowest right now. No, don't drop him. But
I
I'd
don't know
probably
about
say
droppable, but borderline
No,
droppable, bro.
I'm kidding. He's no, don't drop him, obviously. But yeah, man, he's just not. I really thought he was going to bounce back this year. I did, but he just hasn't looked good and just hasn't been able to do it.
yeah.
So yeah, Javonte sucks. James Conner, who had a fumble in that game. Everyone was dropping the ball, man. It's like 4 Cardinals players on the duds list. How many do we have? Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison,
Harrison.
You got one
James
stud,
Conner,
Trey McBride, baby.
Trey McBride.
Yeah.
Yeah, barely. He barely made that list with no Marvin Harrison in the game, man. Just, oh, man. Anyways,
Yeah.
James Conner had a fumble in that game. He was one of like 4 people to fumble the ball, including Kyler Murray.
What's crazy about that is that Connor, like, he was healthy the entire time, and they played, I think, DeMercado and another back, and they just
Trey
kept
Benson,
playing him
maybe?
back and forth, and they just sat Connor. Like, Connor wasn't back in the game in the second half, which is crazy to me. I don't know, because Green Bay was doing their thing, so they're trying to rest him. Like, I had no clue.
I think it was after the fumble. Fumbled, and they were like, "Yeah, bro, you're good," and took him out. Just said,
Yeah,
don't fumble
it's
the ball."
crazy. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you kind of want your running back to be punished like that in the sense that, like, you fumble the ball, okay, you're not playing anymore. That's it. The rest of the game, you're on the bench. You can watch your
What
team
happened to
suck.
Zack Moss, baby?
I mean, yeah, because DeMercado had 4 attempts, 25 yards, 5 receptions, 39 yards. So and then Trey Benson was in there for 5 attempts. But dude, sometimes it's like punish your RB for fumbling the ball, put someone else in, so that they learn, like, don't fumble the ball. Maybe do that to Javonte once or twice. Jeez. Saquon Barkley, 6.4 fantasy points. Not what you expected of Saquon.
Definitely not, bro. Definitely not. He's only scored a touchdown in 2 of his 5 games so far. I mean, just expect better. I want to see him catch more balls out the backfield. So that's
Personally,
that's what he needs to be like elite.
honestly, man, I think it's just like Nick Sirianni, man. He just loves to put the brake, like he's going. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then he just puts the brake on, dude. I don't know, man. Saquon Barkley could have ate against that Browns defense, but I don't know, man. It's just the play calling.
Yeah,
I
I feel
had a lot
that.
of
We'll
rushing
see.
attempts.
I'm not worried. I think Saquon will have his better weeks coming up. So
Yeah.
Yeah. This is his first game that he did not have 100 scrimmage yards. Just FYI.
Yeah, and he should have cleared that, like on a Browns shitty defense. So
Yeah. On to the tight end duds. That's it for running backs. Top of the list, Tucker Kraft. I mean, he had 2 really good weeks and then did nothing against the Cardinals because the Cardinals defense is so great. Haha. I guess the ball just went elsewhere. You know, I was going to mention he didn't get any touchdowns, didn't get in the end zone. Dobbs was suspended last week in Green Bay because he complained like he wasn't getting the ball, and then he played this week. He got 2 touchdowns. So
that's crazy.
Maybe, yeah. So maybe, and I did tell someone you should start.
Wicks
Dobbs.
got out with a shoulder injury, did he not?
He did.
Yes, he did.
He did get out too.
So
yeah.
I mean, look, the thing is, there's still so many mouths to feed in Green Bay.
Yep.
This is something we discussed way back when. They got 4 receivers. They got this Tucker Kraft now, right? So that's like 5 mouths to feed, and that's not even RBs at all, right? So it's just it's a roulette. It's like the Chicago offense. It's a roulette wheel. Who's gonna eat this week? Wicks, Jaden Reed, Dobbs, Tucker Kraft. You don't know, right? Right now, Wicks is going to be out with a shoulder injury week to week. Christian Watson had a big play, so he's kind of back in the mix.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like kind of, a little bit of a headache trying to see who's going to be the one to really eat per week.
Yeah, definitely. Jake Ferguson next on the list. Dallas just did not look good. So that's pretty much it. Pat Fryermuth also on the list. 2.6 fantasy points. I think him and Jake Ferguson, same number of fantasy points, 2.6. And I think the only name here that I'm really not worried about, but like that kind of sucks is Jake Ferguson, because he's been doing really well throughout the season. He's kind of been one of the better tight ends.
I think he'll still like do okay, for tight end.
Yeah.
Dallas does have Jalen Tolbert, who was running a good amount of routes. I forget the exact number, but probably definitely maybe the second option instead of Jake Fergie in passing now.
Probably maybe definitely.
Perhaps.
Yeah, Dak just needs to bounce back, man. Like the Cowboys players
get better.
I don't know, man. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree. He does need to bounce back. He needs to do something. The offense moves through him, so no excuses for Dak, right? And maybe it's the play calling. I don't know. Either way, the players suffer from it. But yeah, that's it for the duds. Anyone else on the list? We have one bonus dud BBTB wanted to mention earlier. BBTB wanted to shout it out on the podcast.
Who?
Dallas defense with negative.
Oh yeah, Dallas defense negative. Yeah, bro. That's a big dud.
Against Detroit, you could deserve -7.
Yeah, there are.
Honest,
is there any, like, just as a side comment, is there any defense that's like matchup proof that you can start against any offense?
Houston?
You can start them against any offense.
Like, almost. I wouldn't say like they're going to go double digits, but like you could.
I don't think I'm confident with any defense versus any offense like that, to be honest. To be real. Houston is close, though. There's really no other one.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. But like Houston, maybe, like, I don't think they'll get you negative points, but off any end, yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't even say Denver D, like, because like the offense loses the ball so fast, the defense doesn't even rest. So like,
yeah. I mean,
you
could say Niners. Could say Niners.
Kind of, like, yeah. But they're probably one of the better ones.
Niners are a great NFL defense. They don't rack up fantasy points as a defense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not the defense that's getting punt return TDs and interception TDs to the house, pick sixes. Like, they're not that kind of D. They're the D to make you go 3 and out, which doesn't get you fantasy points.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, they play Kansas City next week, so we see. Anyways, I just brought that up because some people have like kickers that you start automatically every week. But is there a defense that you start automatically every week? We know now, probably not, especially after we saw Dallas D get spanked. But that'll do it for this episode. Tune in next time to hear the Week 7 waiver pickups. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Yep.